Just a bit of introduction. I'm the FD, but like a lot of FDs, we get the poison chalice of IT as well. If you've heard of Hypnos, great. If you haven't, I'll tell you just a little bit about us because it's actually important. You might find it interesting in terms of what our IT requirements would be. So from our point of view, British company, we've been going for some considerable time. We have got one or two reasonable customers, happy with the beds. We've actually had Royal Warrant since 1929, so together with the likes of Aston Martin, Bentley and Bollinger, you have one of our beds, you join a select group. And as you say, we're beds makers. We have two separate divisions, which is part of the IT challenge. We've got a retail division, which is based in Buckinghamshire, and like you, ladies and gentlemen, discerning customers. We also have a contract division. We make beds for hotels, ships, interior designers that like to specify their own thing. And we also service customers around the world, predominantly in the hotel industry. So if you are fortunate enough to stay in places like Montcalm or the Corinthia hotels, you'll be on a Hypnos bed, but there again, don't feel too bad because if you stay in Premier Inn and Travelodge, you're also on a Hypnos bed. Different product, I hasten to add. So our journey to the cloud. This is going back to what I think probably many of you probably recognise as an SME IT infrastructure. In the beginning was the server. Small businesses start off with getting something a little bit more than a PC, so that has to do something. Well, actually, you probably add another one in there for a bit of resilience, but it's actually going to be doing a lot of the activities that the business needs to survive or to do what it does. And as time progresses, you add more and more bits on, and then you suddenly realise that actually you've got to keep it all going, juggling those balls in the air. A lot of these issues, dare I say the archive issue, probably don't do often enough. And then at some point you get into the bigger world of actually looking after the technology that you've got, whether you put it in an air-conditioned room, whatever it might be, but actually you're then into maintenance issues and uninterrupted power supplies. These issues catch up with you as you get larger, and invariably at some point, and I don't want to be too disparaging because I know that there are a number of us in here, we have an IT manager sitting above it all trying to keep it all going. That's where we were. We, as I say, 100 years old. Our business turns over 20 odd million. My definition of an SME is something between 1 and 50 million. In other words, there's no safety net of big brother behind you, no safety net of going to the market if you have a problem, mentality of running a business as if it is yours. My experience is that over a period of time, the IT infrastructure becomes stealthily different. Your business will change, your customers will change. Business process changes. I don't know how many of you guys are here that are using workarounds in your business. It doesn't quite do what you think, so you do something else and you feed information back in. Staff changes. Always something that probably loses out somewhere down the line, which is you've probably got a number of people that have actually learned what to do from somebody else. They were never there at the original implementation. So actually, you've got the Chinese whisper syndrome of how you're actually using your IT system. Customers, well, those people out there that actually want the product that you want start to ask for something slightly different. Does that fit with what your IT system is used to dealing with? And then when they do ask for something different, you've got the challenge of making it differently. So you have challenges on products. Now, we're a manufacturer, so IT to us is a back office issue. It's one of those issues that people in the business expect to happen. Our customers put no value on our IT infrastructure in terms of what they buy when they buy a bed. And our issue is, yes, it's a back office issue, but it is pretty much stuck in a broom cupboard. A nicely air-conditioned broom cupboard and a tidy broom cupboard, but it's small. And a lot of people would see it as a hygiene facility. It's expected. It doesn't get a great deal of, well, doesn't get a great deal of airtime in the business until it goes wrong. and then all hell breaks loose because we should have known about it 6 months ago, and why didn't we do anything about it then? But in a lot of those things, you do see danger signs of whether your IT system is keeping pace with what you want to be doing. Whoops, shouldn't be there, should it? It becomes progressively unreliable. You get the odd outage here and there. You have to phone up your support people more regularly. I have to say, I'm standing here and we've got a server down back at the office. First time we've had a server down for about a year, but it's today that it chooses to do it. You have different capacity limits. I think the comment was made earlier today about mailboxes. Always a frustration of having a mailbox which actually it says you got to tidy it up. You can't take any more emails in. Somebody's got to go and start doing those hygiene issues which actually nobody puts any value on, but you got to go and do it. Lack of user confidence. I started with Hypnos back at the end of 2007. Nobody liked the system that they had at the time, that we had at the time. But nobody actually had looked forward about what was going to happen afterwards, what was going to follow it on. And people just got more and more frustrated, despondent, and basically you then end up with the, well, sorry, we'll go and do it a different way anyway. So the quality of the data that you're actually dealing with then starts to suffer. One of our danger signs was what I'm terming unjustifiable and limited support contracts. Don't want to be too disparaging about some of the older, more dyed-in-the-wool software companies, but when you question what the support is for, it just seems so ridiculously large compared with all the other issues that you put value on in the business that, quite frankly, you have to move away. Technology-driven dead ends. If you've made an investment in your IT infrastructure in the last 3 years, you probably think that you've got another 3-5 years going for it. Our investment was made in 2000. So we're coming up against issues to do with 32-bit technology to 64-bit technology. So you can't get a 32-bit machine anymore, so I'm told. I'm sure some of you will say where you can. And there's a perceived no added value in the business. Now, I don't know how many of you are experiencing any, if any, of those, one or more. But I think from my experience, you tend to see it creep up on you. So what did we do? Now, you've got to bear in mind, this goes back to probably 2008. We, like a lot of businesses, found times tough back then. We realized that we needed to take a step back. We knew we wanted to change. We didn't know what we wanted to change to, but we actually had to go into survival mode, a mothballing approach to how we actually ran our IT operation. It meant that we did get rid of our IT manager. We did outsource some of the support contracts, and we saved ourselves some money in doing so, but it didn't move the business any further forward. It meant that we then had a chance to look at what applications there were out there that we would be looking to move to. Now, this is a presentation about cloud, and I'll get to cloud through this. Our issue was what's out there, what do we want to actually be running the business from an IT point of view, and then we asked the question, well, where do we want it? Do we want it stuck in a room which gives us all the hygiene issues and keep going that way, or are there alternatives? We explored a number of them. We drew up the classic issue to do with the functionality. Our business makes things, we have to deal with customers, we have to respond to customers, so we wanted systems that were going to be better than that. If I give you an example, our old system was so old it cannot recognise what an email address is. So we clearly wanted to take a big step forward and to get something that was going to be far more functionally rich than that. We also, just as an example, you'll have your own to do with your own business and what it does uniquely. Our old ERP system was very good at making product if it knew what it was making. So if you knew that the product you were going to be making was red and not blue, as long as you put a bill of material together that was red and not blue, it would be fantastic. All the purchase orders would be raised at the right time, your supply chain would be full, fantastic. But actually, to code that new product was very time consuming, the creation of the bill of material. You get an order from a customer and you end up having to create the bills of material. We got to a position where for some of our divan bases, we were going to give X number of different choices, feet, colours, whatever. Worked out there's 172,000 permutations of divan base. So you work out, do we create 172,000 bills of material just on the off chance that the customer will want one of those? Well, we worked out it's about a 3-year plan to actually put 172,000 bills of material in. So clearly we didn't want to do that. We wanted something that could build a bill of material based on certain parameters, call it an expert system, a configurator, whatever you might call it. So that's what drove us down what it was we wanted to use. And the next question was, how did we want to avail ourselves of it? We went through a process of going to events like this, where there are ERP providers, talking to them, fathoming out which one's more likely to suit our needs or not. And we got down to a short list of 2. I've defined those as being old school and web-based. One was a business which, very old school, big upfront license fees, the traditional approach. What do I pay my 100 grand for? Well, it's a license. Well, what can I do with that license? Well, you can't do anything with it. The next issue is, well, where do we have it? Well, you can stick it on the wall in your computer room. Well, we don't like that. We know we don't like that. Can you look after it for us? Oh, well, if you want us to do that, that will be an extra amount on the bill at the bottom. What about the configurator part? Oh, well, we know a man that can do that. So you're then talking about another third-party piece of software. What about a CRM package? Oh, that's another one. We've got best-of-breed CRM package over here. Oh, fantastic. Yes, they have a reputation of being able to knit these things together. But then you're into, well, whose backside do you kick if it doesn't work? So we had that as a proposal. And we also had a proposal from a company that, shall we say, we'd come by through people that we knew. It was a product that's been around for 10 years, or thereabouts, been developed for 10 years, has a customer base, we've been to see the customers, we like what we saw. It was start to finish ERP system, manufacturing. They had their own ability to configure the product, so we made a decision which actually was, we'll go with you, but how do we use your service? How do we use your application? Well, it is a hosted environment in the first place. You log on to a web address to use it. It's software as a service. It's a monthly fee per user based on how many features of the application that you want. So we thought, well, that's pretty much what we want, but shall I say, there are risks. It's about a 10-person firm. I'll tell you what we've got. We've got a simplified IT function. We still have no IT manager. Myself and my financial controller pick up the calls as and when they come through to say my PC doesn't work, my fax machine doesn't work. So we are where we are, but we got to where we are by going through that step previously to do with survival. So if you are talking about how to get rid of whatever it is you may be encumbered with at the moment, we've effectively been through 2 steps to get where we are today. We believe we've reduced risk. When I say we believe we've reduced risk, we've created other risks. Our big risk now is, how do we maintain connectivity to the internet? Whilst we've moved to a new factory 2 years ago, in the old factory, we did actually have literally the digger go through the cable outside the building. So there are those issues. Clearly, we are looking at having 2 internet cables into the building from different suppliers, from different locations. But being where we are in Prince's Risborough in Buckinghamshire, actually, you may as well be on the moon from the point of view of some of the connectivity. Some of you people may be very fortunate to be very close to a bit of fibre. We're not. It also creates, in terms of risk and creating new ones, our ERP stroke cloud provider, so software as a service provider, is a small company. Our risk was effectively now transferred to their business risk. They fail, we fail. So from our point of view, how do we overcome that? We overcame it by actually having a non-exec member of their board. Different way of thinking about how we get any early stage warning signs from them. What we've got is an application which is scalable with predictable costs. We get new people in, we pay more for whatever access they need. So far, touch wood, things are going reasonably well. When I mentioned the server that's failed today, that's looking after our old system as we transition. What we'd like to think we've got is leading edge. We don't know of any other bed manufacturer. Bed manufacturing is a particularly conservative occupation that has the capabilities that we have now and expect to have in the future. It also gives us, shall we say, the tools to do things with our IT and to communicate with all of our various, I think the buzzword is stakeholders, be they customers, suppliers, whatever it is, in a way which, again, no other bed manufacturer can do so. So from our point of view, we think we've got something that will last, we'd like to think, as long as 10 years ago as the old one, 10 years for this model, but I'm sure that this model will morph over the 10 years. So I try to keep it nice and short because you may have some questions. Some of you may be going through some issues of your own. So,
no, very good presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have got resistance and reluctance from our IT department for cloud introduction. How did you overcome that as a business?
Yeah, well, yes, I can be flippant. Yes, it was relatively, our biggest decision was actually that concept of survival, the mothballing issue. We bought ourselves time to look at it. I have to say that in the intervening period, our IT manager has been part of the support operation that's kept us going up to now. So it wasn't a bloodbath separation, but in a way, I go back to a comment that was made at the last of these forums back in May, where somebody said, well, I'm sure it was an IT manager, is the cloud relevant for SMEs? And the response from Google, another very large organisation, was absolutely. It's the way smaller businesses effectively become much more agile and are able to overtake the big boys because of their entrenched operations. Now, I can only imagine that potentially you may be in that situation, which, yes, there is going to be some inertia. If you've made investment reasonably recently, you've got something to potentially write off if necessary. We didn't find that because we had our own set of circumstances. What you've explained is probably what most people will find. Because in a way, the size of business that we are, we don't think we ever need a full-time IT manager ever again.
So get rid of my IT manager.
Well, interestingly, one of the things that we're expecting to get from where we've gone is we have the capacity or we have the capability for saving heads. But we don't think that that's probably going to be the best use of what we're going to do. What we think is we are going to have so many more opportunities to touch customers and suppliers and improve the business that actually we'll probably maintain the same headcount, but they'll be doing different things. So if you actually have an IT manager that can do other things, has a better view of office supervision, whatever it is, there may be a redeployment issue. So depending on who the individuals are, there may be opportunities. We certainly see certain key areas in our technical area where at the moment they're doing all this coding, that just disappears. And yes, they are very concerned that their jobs are going. And we've sort of had to put a big arm around them to say there will be other things to do. Maybe they won't be the right people for it, but there will be other things to do. Sorry, gentleman in the white.
How have you protected the IP of the product? Is it an open source product?
No, we pay a monthly license fee, so they know who we are. It's not our IP in terms of the application.
But if their service degrades,
We have a service level agreement in terms of the availability of this particular application to us. It's a 24/7 based service level agreement, not a bit like we heard earlier about Microsoft and Google. Theirs is a 24/7 service level agreement. It's not like, we actually load our wagons during the middle of the night, so we can't have you've got to shut it down from 2 till 4.
but if they choose the direction that they wish to take that product, which is different to yours, do you have any say in that? Or if they took such a drastic step,
the functionality that we have in the way that the product is being configured to our requirements, much of it is actually being created to our requirements, but actually it is so malleable that we don't have any, how have we protected it? We have signed up for, I think at the moment, we went for a 3-year service level agreement on the basis that we don't know you, you don't know us, but we like what we think. If this is a bag of whatever it is, in 3 years' time, we're going to have an out to go and do something else, probably down a traditional route. Hate to think we ever go that way, but where we are. Their issue is actually, if you sign up for us for longer, the price drops, and we maintain that same service level to do with the functionality that's delivered to us. Whether it comes blue, green, red, I don't really care, as long as we can still do those same things that we do at the moment. Invariably, there will be a migration path towards their most up-to-date version, and that's one of the things that we liked, which was we've always got access to the most up-to-date version of this particular bit of software. They don't want the aggravation of trying to maintain 4 versions of it.
Do you mind saying what the ERP system?
I don't mind saying it. Didn't want it to be a big sales pitch for them necessarily, but it's a product called Fuse Metrics with an X.
Are you looking at moving more services to the cloud, say email, collaboration, that sort of thing? And also as well, do you feel it's giving you a competitive advantage? And if so, how?
I'll try and pick those, the competitive advantage, collaboration and email. The application itself is comprehensive, and if I say comprehensive, we've already moved, it has an embedded email client, I think the phrase is, so we've already moved our email system to use Fuse Metrics. Embedded in, the reason for that is because the CRM package is embedded in Fuse Metrics. That CRM package links to the manufacturing process, so customers know where their orders are, which we've not been able to do before. It also goes down to the distribution and logistics activity that we provide as well. So it is as comprehensive an application as we have seen. The collaboration issue is one of those areas that we think we'd like to develop the product together with Fuse Metrics. Well, the company is called Web Office Systems, but the product Fuse Metrics, so that we can actually integrate that into some of our suppliers and customers. It deals with EDI transactions already. The only problem is we're now finding out that where we think some of our big customers, like the likes of John Lewis and co, think they have EDI, sending information to, it isn't, because they send us a part number, which is great, and then they put in the text box, this is now in blue. We actually have to get that codified. So we're now going back to John Lewis to say, can you upgrade your IT system, please? Gentleman at the back.
What steps did you take to ensure you had proper connectivity when you have
The issues are we have 2 sites. We have a site in Long Eaton and a site in Princes Risborough. On both sites, we're looking at having two ISP providers to come to the building in 2 different ways. We're also looking at putting in 3G hubs so that if those cables do go down, we have a limited service through some 3G connectivity. Sorry? Yes, yeah.
You can always go satellite. That's what we've deployed in some of our businesses and get up to 10 megs down, and it still works.
Right. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Okay. Gentleman over there somewhere. Sir.
Mr. Richards, how many users do you actually have?
We have at the moment in email users, we've got about 75. Yeah, we're talking SME here, so we've got 75. I know that Fusemetrics is used with customers who actually have thousands of email users, but that's largely the only reason that they're using the product is for the CRM activity, not what we're using it for, which is the full functionality of ERP and production planning, etc.
I'll just try to get a comparison. We've put your 150 million
Yeah.
consider, but yeah, we're only about 100 business users on systems in general.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, some of the functionality that one gets with iPhones and other issues to do with Exchange server functionality, where effectively you read an email on your iPhone and it's deleted off the email server, that's an application which Fusemetrics has, but only for iPhones. If you've got a BlackBerry, they haven't got that application yet. So there are, you've got to bear in mind, this isn't a Microsoft-derived product, but then we didn't want one. That's not to decry Microsoft, because clearly their products are probably very, very good. Our issue is we go down a process of looking at an application, which is great. We can source the application. Our issue is then, well, who do we get to implement it? And then it's a free-for-all. We then have to go down another route of actually then establishing who do we want to implement the product. So we've got pretty much 2 procurement activities which we wanted to try and avoid. So.
Has having the application out in a hosted cloud led you to think about any changes you might want to make to your business model along the supply chain, either with your large customers or with your key suppliers, maybe giving them direct access?
Yes, absolutely. One of the benefits we see of moving not only to this application, but because this application is web-based, is effectively it enables us to actually give access to anybody. We don't have VPN issues to have to deal with. We don't have to necessarily monitor those. Clearly, we've got some considerations to say how we let people in to place orders, which would be great, how to let people in to see where their order status is. But those are issues which we haven't dealt with yet. I'm sure can be dealt with very, very easily. Same thing with our suppliers. I mean, one of the issues we're looking at being able to do is actually give our suppliers a forecast of our demand. The expectation is, if you know what we're going to be looking at in the next 3-4 months, please make sure you have it available and don't wait for us to then suddenly give you a purchase order that you suddenly say, oh, because you didn't order it, we didn't know what you wanted. Yeah? So, and that's a facet of the fact that our supply chain, because of the environment that we're in, because of times are tough, we've actually had to extend our supply chain overseas quite considerably. So. We have a website. That is not integrated into this at the moment. We are expecting to have the ability to do so. We've got to bear in mind that we've got 2 very distinct customer bases. We've got a hotel customer base and we've got a retailer customer base, but all of you are end users. So you can go and have a look at our lovely base, but you can't at the moment buy one of our beds off our website because that really kicks our retailers in the teeth. Yeah? But we'll think about that. Are we pretty much there? Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time, ladies and gentlemen.